So that big, beautiful piece of shit passed. And of course it was going to pass. It was always going to pass. I warned people days ago not to get your hopes up. Because some people were. Some people saw how close the vote was in the House and then in the Senate and then kicking it back to the House. People speaking out against it. Getting their hopes up that Republicans were actually going to grow a spine, because some of them were talking a real good game. But I told you, it's not going to happen. They're all going to fall in line at the end of the day. They're a bunch of cowards. So this was always going to happen. Really, the only thing about this that surprises me is that there's any people who are surprised. That's the only thing that surprises me. Because you know, I hear people refer to the Republican Party as a cult, correctly, because it is. But then I saw people thinking that they had a chance to defeat this bill. Do you believe what you're saying when you call this a cult or not? Because if you do believe that the Republican Party is a cult, then why would you ever think that the cult would defy their cult leader? That doesn't happen. That is why this bill was always going to pass. I don't care how close it seemed to be or how close it was. It doesn't matter. They were always going to get the votes they needed. And that's what happened, and that was always going to happen. And the only way that any of these Republicans will ever break with Donald Trump, and it could happen, but the only way that it would happen is if Republicans come to fear the voters more than they fear Donald Trump. That's it. And really, when we're talking about fearing Donald Trump, we're really talking about fearing a different subset of voters, because it's really not Trump that they're afraid of. They're afraid of the cult that he controls. They're not afraid of him because he's, what are they afraid of when it comes to him? Is he going to come over and beat him up? No, they're afraid of him because he might say something mean against them and turn the cult against them. That's why they're afraid of him, because the base of the Republican Party is a full-on cult in service of him. And so one of two things has to happen for Republican politicians to break with Trump. And that is, they need to be more afraid of the non-Trump cult voters than they are of Trump and his cult voters. Or the cult voters, the base of the Republican Party, need to turn on Donald Trump, such that they are no longer a mindless cult in service of him, so that he can command them against anyone who might step out of line. And there's no indication that that's going to happen anytime soon. I believe at some point it's going to start happening. But it's not happening now. And there's no indication that it'll happen anytime soon. And so this was always going to pass. Doesn't matter how bad it is. Doesn't matter who gets hurt by it. The specifics of the bill don't matter at all. All that matters is the internal politics of the Republican Party. That is to say, of the Trump cult, because they are one and the same. And because of that, this was always going to pass. It's a cult. But this should be a lesson to you going forward. Do you believe that it's a cult or not? If you do believe it's a cult, as I do, you need to understand what that means and temper your expectations accordingly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.